In this video, we are looking over a Godot node called Path2D that helps us create a predefined path for objects to follow, which is not uncommon in games like platformers, with cameras, NPCs, or even the environment pieces themselves. Let's get into it. So, I went ahead and set up a simple scene with a character with a simple default script added to him, a NPC that's already animated, a platform piece that's just a sprite, and a camera. So let's have this platform piece move. First, let's go ahead and add a Path2D. When you have the Path2D selected, you can look at the curve object, and you notice inside the curve object are points. You can add points at the top here by clicking Add Point, so the green plus icon. And you can see it creates this path. Pretty simple so far. Let's go ahead and say select points. I thought we already have these points selected. We can move these around like so. Let's say we added one too many points. We can hit the delete point. Go back to hit the select point again. Move it around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more point and then make it encircle itself. Select again. Move this point down here. Far right portion over here. Then I can select Close Curve. But if I select that last piece that was added, you notice it's two separate points. I'm going to go ahead and leave them on top of each other. If you look over here to the right, you can see all the points that were added. So far, the path are straight lines. We can actually round these out by selecting the Select Control Points. I'll click that. And if you just click and drag a point, you'll see these lines that come out. You can move them left and right, make them wider. You can also click Release and click again, make them rounder. So I'm going to do that for each of the points to round out each of these points. But you notice that the endpoint here is only one. So I got to do it again. You can also see that you can split them around and make them all whirly. And if I select points again, I can move these to straighten them out just a little bit. Neat. Let's go ahead and add a child node to Path2D called Path2D. And if you look over to the right, you can see progress and progress ratio. Progress is how long the line is in pixels. You can see it move around. You can also see progress ratio move. And it also works the other way. I can select the progress ratio and see it move around. So I'm going to go ahead and rename the Path2D to Platform Path. I'm going to select my moving platform and place it under Path follow 2D. Make sure it is directly on that point. Now I want to select the progress ratio and move it to the right from 0 to 1. You can see it move. But you also notice that the platform is rotating when we move it. Now, if you don't want this to happen, just turn the rotates to off. But if I keep continuing on the progress past the pixel length, it will just loop through. But what if I uncheck the loop button? It has a max. But I'll leave it on for now. Select our Path2D and add a script. We're going to automate the platform. And create. I like to name my classes. First thing we do, let's go ahead and add a variable to include our current path follow. And when it's ready, we'll select and drag. So when it's ready, it will assign the path platform follow to path follow 2D. I don't need the ready function. Let's go ahead and remove that. Let's also add a export variable, speed, making it a float, defaulting it to 20. So now let's take the platform follow and select the progress ratio and have it plus equals speed times delta. Before we do that, let's go ahead and set this up to be 1 for now. I tried doing 20, I think it was way too fast. So let's try doing 1. Run the current scene. Now you can see it moving really fast. Let's slow this down a bit. Let's make it 0.5. Look at that, the platform moves. I'm going to go ahead and make it 0.1. Good. Now we see the platform coming in at a reasonable speed. So let's add some collision. First, let's add a rigid body. Create. And under rigid body, let's go to deactivation, select freeze, and make kinematic. Then let's add a collision shape. And make it a rectangle. I'll go ahead and make it size up. Now when I run this, should be able to jump on top of it, and it moves along with my character. Good. Now, I'm not going to take the time to perfect this. This is just an example showing Path2D itself. So from the Pixel Adventure Pack from itch.io, I went ahead and created an animated sprite with this bee. Let's have this me move back and forth. Let's create another Path2D. I'm going to go ahead and rename it to bpath. And let's go ahead and add some points to here and to here. Let's go ahead and add a path follow 2D. And let's move the bee under path follow. Go ahead and zero out the transform. What I want to do is have the bee move to left and to right. Let's click on bee path and add a script and create the bee path. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a follower 2D. Using the path follow 2D. We'll go ahead and assign it to this node. Then let's set up a speed variable float that will be exported. We'll go ahead and assign it to 0.1. Then let's go ahead and add a temp variable. We'll say actual speed. See. In a ready function, we'll default the actual speed to speed. Then let's check if the path follower progress is greater than or equal to 1. And we also want to know what direction this is currently going. So let's add in a boolean if it's traveling right. I'm going to default that to true. Travel right. If it's traveling right and greater than 1 into progress, oops, that needs to be progress ratio. Excuse me. That means we need to start heading left. So we'll put in actual speed equals -1 times speed. And we'll say travel right is false. We also need to check when it starts traveling left is less than or equal to 0. And not traveling right. We need to go back towards the left. And travel right will equal true. And below this portion, this is what we'll say set the progress ratio. Plus equals actual speed times delta. All right, let's see how this looks. Okay, so we got the B moving to the right. Let's see if it goes back to the left. There we go. Now, if you have the loop setting to true, I've turned the loop setting to off. If I had the loop setting on, let's check to see what that would look like. And it loops all the way back around. But for now, I'm going to leave it turned off, so that way it goes back and forth. Great. One thing I also noticed that the animation was not on by default. So let's go to the animated sprite, select the animation I want, and select the auto load on play. There we go. And let's see how it looks now. There we go. Great. Next, let's see how we can handle the camera. In most 2D platforms, the camera will follow the player within certain limits. Let's see if we can set up where the camera will move only left and right to follow the player. Now, sometimes the camera will actually follow the player itself, but in this instance, we're just going to have it follow a straight line along a path. So that way the player, if he goes off screen, the camera doesn't follow. So we can go to, let's add a Path2D. I'll rename this to camera path. In this instance, I'm not going to add a path follow 2D. I'll show why here in a second. So let's add a script. Create. Let's go ahead and add a placeholder for the camera. Oops. 2D. And placeholder for the player. Oops. So that way we have something to follow. Then let's also add an export for speed. I'm going to go ahead and set this default to 50. Let's create a helper function called set follow position. We'll take in a delta. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a position along the curve, or those points we created with every path to 2D. So we'll get the player dot global position for that. So this will go out along the line. So let's go ahead and take a quick look. Let's go ahead and add some points to have a line. And get the closest in relation to the player. We'll try to find the closest vector 2 point along this line. So let's get the follow vector. Make that a vector 2. Self. Curve. Sample baked. So what this will do, we'll get the closest pixel. Because if you look at the node 2D, or if you look at a path follow, there is a pixel progress. Get closest offset will get that pixel number. And then sample baked will take that pixel and convert it into a vector 2D. Then we're going to have the camera global position move toward the follow vector at set speed. First thing we're going to do is in ready, we're going to have it default call. Then we're going to do the same thing, set follow position in the physics process. Let's see how it looks. But first, let us set up the assignments for the camera and for the player. Now let's try it out. Notice the camera's up higher, but when I move the player, it'll move along and follow the player. If I go back, it'll start moving back. But if I fall off, it doesn't follow the player past the Path2D. All right, that's it for this tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. If you can do me a favor and subscribe or like my video, I would much appreciate it. Thank you.